Welcome back to another episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Dozer, and if you're new to the show, the mission here is to expose the quacks and gimmicks in the marketing industry while featuring some great marketers and entrepreneurs along the way. So in this episode, I'm excited to welcome our guest, Joe Martinez. So Joe, I believe, is the co-founder of Paid Media Pros. Joe, are you guys based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, correct?
I am. Michelle is in Indianapolis.
Well, cool. Well, thank you so much for joining the show, and I'm excited to dive into the ever-changing world of PPC marketing.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah, so let's just do a quick intro on who you are and what you do with Paid Media Pros.
Yeah, Joe Martinez, maybe I should clarify that one more time. But I've been in the paid media industry. It's so weird to say, well over a decade now. We're getting closer to 15 years. And that's honestly solely what I've done. Dabbled into the SEO realm long time ago. It wasn't my thing. Worked at a few agencies, bounced around a little bit, but then when I met Michelle on the kind of like the speaking circuit, when conferences were still really plentiful, we hit it off really well. We kind of have the same POV on a lot of things in terms of paid media. So then we started our YouTube channel and then kind of broke off on our own. It's literally just us two.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about the YouTube channel here in a little bit, but
Sure.
for full transparency for those listening, I actually first met Joe, I believe it was 2018 or 2019 it would have been, at the PPC Hero Conference in Philadelphia. He's a great speaker, and he was speaking on, I believe it was ad copy was the actual topic. Have you spoken at any recent conferences, Joe, or talk about your speaking circuit lately?
No, it's honestly, I've gotten a heck of a lot more value from the YouTube channel. I've done some like regional stuff around the Wisconsin area. But in terms of the value personally, I see business-wise and professionally, the YouTube channel has just been honestly more beneficial to me than traveling and speaking. Plus, I got kids that are growing up older, daughters in travel dance that we're doing a lot of kid stuff now, so living the dad life too.
Yeah, that's no joke. That makes a lot of sense why you stopped the speaking circuit then, so I
Yep.
completely understand. Let's talk about the Paid Media Pros YouTube channel. So I actually have two YouTube channels myself. I didn't actually start doing YouTube until last year, and I'm looking at your channel right here. You have almost 37K subscribers, which is very respectable. So talk about YouTube. Are you generating high-quality leads from that? Just talk about your success over the years that you've done this channel.
Yeah, I mean, our focus honestly is, more how-to type videos. We get a lot of those questions of like, how do I do this? How do I do this? So like, well, let's just make videos on them. And we honestly like to hear people's comments and being like, can you make a video about this? Because we're always looking for ideas. But we have 2 videos a week. Try to get more of the presentation type style videos. But the business we get from those, plus the ad revenue from the channel. I always tell people when they're like, what's it like to have a YouTube channel? I said like, well, we don't have to pay someone to be our salesperson. We technically get paid to have a salesperson. So
Very high intent.
yeah. So it's when people realize like sometimes, cool, we help answer their questions. They can go and do it themselves. That's fine. That's part of the education. That's part of what we love to do. But at the same point, there's certain people who realize like, okay, even if you explain it, this is still way too in the weeds for me, especially when we go away from the Google style channels that then they reach out and if it's a good fit, we'll work with them. But again, it is just Michelle and I, so space is kind of
cool.
limited.
I am subscribed to you guys. You guys and Surfside PPC are the two channels that I float back and forth with for reliable info.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about PPC a little bit now and diverting from YouTube. Where do you see PPC going in 2024? Now it's changing. It seems like almost every week now with updates and whatnot, you throw AI into the mix. So whether it's lead gen, e-com, talk about where you see PPC going in 2024 and beyond.
It's still a valuable asset. Whether we feel that we're losing control or we're losing information, while yes, that is true. It's still a key component. And it's something that I've had a mentality for years already, really before, the whole AI craze has really kicked in. It's just paid media has always been a great way to help build your brand. That hasn't changed. You saw me speak on ad copy for the longest time. I was almost speaking solely on YouTube and the benefits of building brand awareness there. We're seeing all the articles and, all the stats and everything of how younger generations aren't on Google as much. They're focusing more on TikTok and everything. So, but that's another place for companies to build awareness. And TikTok literally, I think, this week just announced, a big update to shopping ad capability within the platform. So it's that shift in focus of, yes, we all want the direct return, and you could still get it, but I always thought PPC had, or just paid media. I shouldn't really say PPC. I say paid media because it's more than just a pay-per-click model. But any sort of online paid media has in my opinion, the best capabilities to really help build your brand and build the awareness. And we try to explain to our clients that, yes, we always try to get the direct return. Search will always have that deepest intent. But someone seeing you on TikTok or YouTube for the first time, can you really expect them to, buy that enterprise software immediately after seeing one ad? No. Let's work on giving them, influencing that decision, building the awareness, and that's where, in my opinion, paid media has always been strongest, whether it was years in the past, 2024, or beyond.
Especially for paid search, capturing that bottom of funnel traffic. I don't think that will ever go away anytime soon.
No, yeah, and it's just become, is it working as well as it is before? The SERPs have changed. I have a client right now that's dealing with it now that organic shopping results have come back in, and the endless scrolling plus match types not working as well as they have been, not seeing all the search terms that are coming through. Competition is increasing. Branded CPCs are rising. Those changes where search is still important, but in certain cases, if it's not working as best as possible, branch out. That's one of my, again, that's not really necessarily a 2024 trend. It's something that we've tried to push for a while. Of like, if you're starting to see certain channels just not work as well for you, there's more than just Google. There's more than just Facebook. Do they have as much volume? No, but if you're starting to see diminished returns there, take what you're losing and start testing out in other channels.
Absolutely. Omni-channel approach is ever more important here in 2024. So you know Sam Tomlinson pretty well. He's also been a speaker at PPC HeroConf. I had him on the podcast a few episodes ago.
Great.
And we've talked about some of the gimmicks that Google likes to pull inside their ads platform. We could talk about Google, Facebook, talk about some of the gimmicks that these big advertisers like to pull for. Maybe they're trying to fool new advertisers that don't know what they're doing. Talk about some things Google Ads does to, I guess, navigate the advertiser in the wrong direction.
Oh man, it's I think if you're experienced and you've been managing accounts for a while, you can catch this stuff pretty easily. However, we all have clients who like to go in there, they'll get the emails, they'll see the bell notifications and everything within the account. Well, limited by budget, but you're not really, you're limited because you're not adding broad match to your campaigns, or like, oh, you could get more conversions, but you're not seeing the little arrow off to the side, but like, yeah, but your cost per conversion is going to go up by 200% over to the side. It's those little things, the fine print that you have to read in there. And I still, not all of them, it's way less than it used to be, but every once in a while I'll still take a Google rep call, a Facebook rep call, because I want to know how they're positioning things, of why you need to change your campaign setting like this, because I know eventually they're going to go straight to the client, tell them that spiel. So I need to know what they're going to feed into my client's ears, just so I can be like, oh, they're pulling this now. But it's valuable to some aspect, but for the most part, we know they're pushing for all their product adoption, and that is
just
something.
Blow all your money into broad match keywords, into PMAX campaigns, into the black box.
Yep, and it is, there's definitely things that we'll test. I think the writing is on the wall with Performance Max of where they would want to be and what they want to have the one campaign to rule them all. We've seen Performance Max actually work very well in certain accounts. We've seen it work the worst of the worst things we've ever launched in an account before too. But to clarify, I think vast majority of what Michelle and I do are lead gen, so I can't really speak too much.
The answer is depends.
Side.
Everything in marketing, it depends on the industry, depends on the niche, depends on a lot of things. It depends is always the answer for everything.
Yep. I've never bought that t-shirt.
Let's talk about some PPC tips. So going off that, what are a few PPC tips? Let's stick to Google Ads for now. A few Google Ads tips that you would have for someone who's maybe newer to managing an account or has some experience managing an account. What are some of those tips that you would recommend?
Yeah, Google has their education resources, and to me, like the help documents that literally explain step by step of how to create a campaign, yes, of course, those are going to be helpful. But I've learned the most, from going to conferences and speaking to other people, having these types of conversations at conferences. If people are still going on the PPC chats on Twitter, I'll admit I've been absent for a long time, but having those conversations with people who are actually into the weeds, not the programmers and the Google sales reps, who are telling you what to do, that's going to help you learn a lot more. Yes, I'm going to toss in my own channel there, as well as the other, plenty of other paid media channels besides ours out there that you can learn from as well. For us, that has kind of been the best way to learn and be open-minded in terms of adapting. I still laugh of before call extensions were even around. This might show how old I was before the gray was showing up. Like, you used to be able to put a phone number anywhere in your ad text, because there weren't any call extensions at the time. There weren't any call campaigns. And, when that went away, I was like, oh, this is stupid. Oh, I can't believe I can't put a phone number in our ad anymore. But, there's always a certain group of people on social media who just like to complain about every single change. Well, it's like, it's not going to stop. Change is always going to be there.
Now with AI, it's even going to happen even more.
Yeah, exactly. So complaining is not going to do anything. You're not going to have any control over it. They're not going to be like, oh, that one person complained on Twitter. Okay, let's bring that feature back. No, it's not going to happen. So, shut up, deal with it, and start testing things out early, and just learn how to try to make things work, or, learn early so you can maybe pivot directions in terms of either campaign type strategy or maybe even just channel strategy to adapt to these changes to figure out what is actually going to make a positive impact for your goals.
Absolutely. I like being open-minded as a paid media marketer. That's a great tip. So one thing I always ask other people in this space is, what are your thoughts on the match type situation right now? More particularly phrase versus broad, negative keyword match types. Talk about how you would go in and what's your strategy for match types right now on Google Ads?
Yeah, this is many years ago, maybe like the 2017-ish era. I was a single keyword ad group believer.
Good old Stags.
Yeah, absolutely. And it definitely worked. I'm not saying create a separate landing page for every single keyword. We definitely did not do that. That's too much work. But, now it's themes. I'm bringing exact and phrase together. Broad, I still separate within my own campaigns or ad groups, depending on, budget control. Broad, to me, is still completely separated. I don't really mix it in unless it's an account that we've taken on that have it set up already like that, where broad is mixed in and it's got so much history and it's performing well. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to touch it. We'll have these few oddball campaigns, but that's proof that itself. Like, I will separate it out when I create these ad groups initially. However, I've had accounts that we have taken over where broad match gets there. It learns. It takes a long time in certain cases. There's one that we've had a client that they had it running for 5 years. Broad match, guy was setting it up on his own, didn't know what he was doing, and then we were digging into it. It was performing well. We found out that one broad match campaign that he had running for 5 years was 15% of the company's business, not Google Ads 15%. The entire company's business 15% that can come from this broad match campaign because it helped it grow. It did help it find new keywords, new search terms that we weren't, discovering and weren't adding because they were all low volume.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kind of like how we use DSA for the exact same reason. So it's valuable, yes, but it needs time and it needs a lot of data points, and that was an e-commerce one, I will say. So it has a lot more information coming in.
When I asked Sam about that, he likes to talk about phrase match as the illusion of control now. He actually prefers broad match keywords over phrase match, especially if you're using like a bidding strategy based on conversions, max conversions, TCPA, something around that realm. What are your thoughts on broad versus phrase right now?
For us, we work with a lot of lead gen clients, and a lot of our lead gen clients have massive, ticket items where they need multiple touch points. They need,
right.
They close a sale. It's, 5-figure minimum sale, and it takes 6 months for potentially that person to close, longer sales cycles. In our standpoint, when we're not seeing as many signals, especially in niche businesses, I still like the control from phrase. And with what we've seen in some of these very niche businesses, if volume is lower, Google will take the broad match and be like, well, you need more volume. So I am going to start connecting these keywords to a lot of other stuff that's close enough. And we see a lot of junk from there from our kind of very niche lead gen industries that they have bigger budgets. It's just they're smaller. People don't search for what they offer as much. That's where we see broad go really out of control because if we don't have these e-commerce signals and the direct revenue signals coming in, that really makes broad match to me valuable. So that's where in our case, again, we're unique in terms of the clients that we have, is that's where we still see phrase be a better match for us.
That makes sense for sure. So let's transition a little bit to AI right now. Talk about your experience using AI, and could be paid media, could be anything related to marketing. How are you guys leveraging AI right now in your workflows?
Oh, ad copy. Ad copy. I would say the number one. It's not the only way that we're using it, but ad copy for sure.
Are you using GPT-4 to help you, or just what types of models are you using?
GPT-4. I've done it. Some clients have certain tools. They have the internal budgets because they're using it for their own blog writing and everything. So we're we're using some of the other tools that they have internally. But yeah, if the client doesn't have it, the standard GPT. But like I said, we have very niche clients. Some of them are like in very specific industries that a normal person like me doesn't know until I stick with the client for a while, and then you start to know more about the industry. So when you're coming through and creating new campaigns and seeing these landing pages for the first time, I'm like, I don't know how to say this in like 5 different ways to test because I'm so new within this industry. So that's where it's coming up, and even coming up with the quantity that I want. I'm still a big headline pinner to test different themes of ads. So coming up with different, 5 headlines of the same theme or whatever to kind of break it up and still have some options for Google to test. That's where I think AI has been extremely helpful instead of just rereading a landing page, 800 times just to try to come up with something that works within the character count. Huge time saver.
Yeah, and you mentioned pinned ads or pinned headlines in ads. I've always been against that because, Google flags your score as average or poor if you pin headlines. Yep. And I always thought that negatively impacted whether it's your quality score or how you show up in the auction. Is that incorrect of me thinking that?
In my opinion, I don't care. I'm still going to get the right message across first. And it's one of those things that it's gone both ways. I've tested out an old school ETA headline. I'm only pinning 3 headlines. I've seen that one work better, and then I've seen it fail completely. It's been depending on the client, depending on the message that I'm testing. Ad scores are always low, yes, but for us, and that's the beauty of lead gen and making sure all of our clients have CRMs coming through, I can pinpoint, the date in the ad where these leads are coming through. And for us, it comes back to assessing the value internally within the CRM, where I don't care if it's a poor ad score. The quality that we're getting from here is better than the completely unpinned one that Google's tossing out. It's not always the case, but we can see whether we're right or wrong in those tests. And it goes both ways. We have accounts where unpinned ads are performing better than pinned ones, and within the same account in a different campaign, it's the complete opposite. But
that's one thing I've always gone back and forth with is you have to appease Google to some extent, but then at the same time you have to do other tactics because these are more high intent headlines, but yet go against Google's best practices. So it's an ongoing battle that I have all the time.
Yeah, we want to make sure that our messaging is right, it's valuable, it's engaging. We're going to do that as best as possible. And then once we have a good baseline, then we'll work within those means to try to improve our scores, but without diminishing the quality of our message.
Yeah, that makes sense. So this is the Marketing Quacks podcast, Joe. I want to ask you about, to define a marketing quack in paid media. What are some gimmicks or tricks that you see from other paid media marketers that you'd like to share?
Let's see. Tricks and gimmicks? You mean to deceive people almost? They're the quack, they're the fake? Yeah.
I mean, honestly, Joe, most marketing agencies that I've come across, it's all gimmicks.
Yeah, honestly, if I see someone say, well, Google said, Well, Facebook said, you know, those types of ones where it's almost like a case study. You know, if Google releases a study saying like, well, this company did this and now they saw an increase in conversions, it's like, now you should implement it. So anyone who's sharing kind of all those stats, I always laugh at, especially when, you know, Google's case studies and everything are all like Coca-Cola and anyone that has immediate global brand awareness. So it's like, oh, they implemented this and it worked great. So it's going to work great for all of you and all of your campaigns. Like, yeah, anything in terms of like just the blind implementation. That's to me one of the biggest red flags.
Yeah, absolutely. I see that stuff happen all the time, and people think that stuff's guaranteed to win and stuff's guaranteed to work, and it's not. As you know, you're always testing things. You have to keep an open mind, so being sure that you're testing stuff and don't just blindly follow what your Google or Facebook rep is telling you. I agree 100%.
Yeah,
So yeah, Joe, any final notes on just paid media or marketing advice that you have for anyone listening?
stay up to date in some way. I have on my browser right here, I have a folder of all the official channel blogs, other blogs like like I have Google's official blog, all the way down the line. Every single channel you could think of, Reddit, Quora ads, Spotify ads, Hulu, Roku. I have Apple search ads. I have all of their official blogs, and I look at it multiple times a week just to see if there's anything new coming out. Part of it's for to get content for the channel, but it helps me keep up to date. But then other ones like like Search Engine Land, Search Engine Journal, a lot of those other types of publication type of ones, just to get fresh perspective. Because sometimes there's other marketers like us writing articles there with opinions and other how-tos things. It's yes, we call ourselves the pay media pros, but we know we work in a certain subset of paid media. I haven't touched Pinterest ads in a while, so I like to learn from other people doing other things. I've never really touched Amazon ads, so getting different perspectives and getting different points of view about certain things, people with different experiences will help you learn more. You call yourself an expert, a pro, a ninja, a guru, whatever. You don't know everything about paid media, and you probably never will. So keep an open mind and always be a student.
Absolutely. That's great advice. I should have asked you about Reddit ads. I know we're short on time, but Reddit ads are probably a whole other world right now as they've seen all this explosive growth through this SEO boost that Google has given them in their SERPs. Well, thanks again
Yeah.
for joining the show, Joe. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, I am at Milwaukee PPC on Twitter, X, whatever. And then mostly I think I just tweet about Pay Media Pros. So it's YouTube channel is youtube.com/Pay Media Pros, and we're also the Pay Media Pros username, all one word, on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
Perfect. I'll be sure to link to those in the posts and also the show notes below, whatever you call them these days. Thanks again for your time, Joe, for joining the show. And thanks again for everyone listening to this episode of the Marketing Quacks podcast. Be sure to tune in again for the next episode.